A wave of gun rulings just tore through America, and if you still think the old rules are safe, you could be dangerously behind. Some gun laws did not just get challenged, they got blocked, narrowed, or flat out struck down, and that changes how you need to think right now. Quick question before we continue. Are you subscribed yet? Because what I'm about to walk you through could keep you from trusting the wrong headline, the wrong post, or the wrong guy at the gun counter. Hit that subscribe button now. Here's what just happened. Courts across the country have been using one big Supreme Court test to recheck gun laws. That test asks a simple question. Is this modern gun law close enough to the nation's old historical tradition of gun regulation? If the answer is no, the law is in trouble. And that one test has started knocking over law after law. But here's the part most people get wrong. Struck down does not always mean gone everywhere forever. Some rulings are paused on appeal, some only apply in certain states, some are narrow. So don't make the mistake of hearing one big headline and assuming your local rules vanished overnight. First thing, the federal bump stock rule got crushed by the Supreme Court. This was the rule that treated bump stocks like machine guns. The court said the federal agency went too far and stretched the law beyond what Congress actually wrote. In simple English, the court did not say bump stocks are good. It said the agency could not rewrite the statute on its own. Why does that matter to you? Because it shows courts are not just reviewing state gun laws anymore. They are willing to strike federal gun rules too. And when federal agencies lose, the shockwaves hit the whole country. Second, California's one gun a month law got struck down by a federal judge. That law said you could not buy more than one gun within 30 days. The state argued it helped stop straw purchases, which means buying a gun for somebody else who should not have one. The judge said the law failed the history test. That is a huge deal because it attacks a very common idea in gun control. The idea is this: even if you can buy one gun, the state can slow you down on the second one. The court basically said, hold on, where is the historical proof for that kind of limit? But here's the crazy part. The judge also paused his own ruling for a short time so the state could appeal. That means this was not a nationwide green light. It was a major legal hit, but not the end of the fight. Third, Maryland's handgun licensing system took a big shot too. Under that law, people had to do training, fingerprints, and wait before even starting the normal handgun buying process. A federal appeals court said that extra front-end license setup was unconstitutional. Think about what that means. It was not just a complaint about paperwork being annoying. The court saw that whole extra gate as a burden on a basic right. Imagine you already pass a background check, but the state still forces you through another long step just to begin. The court said Maryland could not show enough historical support for that kind of setup. For regular people, that matters because many states love layered rules. One permit before another permit, one class before another form, one waiting stage before the next one. This ruling tells us those layers are now vulnerable. And let me explain why this matters beyond those three laws. These cases teach one lesson. A lot of modern gun rules were built around public policy arguments, not around old American history. For years, that was enough in many courts. Now it often is not. If a state cannot point to a real historical cousin for a law, that law may be standing on very thin ice. If you're finding this helpful, imagine what you'll learn in my next video about the exact phrases that can protect you when an officer starts asking questions about your firearm. Subscribe now so you don't miss it. Now this is where it gets even more interesting. It is not just guns themselves. Courts are now looking at ammunition and accessories too. Fourth, California's ammunition background check system got hit by a federal appeals court. That law required background checks for ammo purchases. On paper, some people thought that sounded small. Just a quick check, right? But the court said even a system that looks minor can still burden a core right if it blocks lawful people from getting the ammunition they need. That matters because a firearm without ammunition is not very useful for self-defense. So once the court accepted that ammo is tied to the right itself, the state had a much harder time defending the law. Here's what most people get wrong. They hear ammo checks struck down and they think every ammo rule everywhere is dead. No, it means California's system took a serious constitutional loss. Other states may still try different versions, but this case gave gun rights challengers a very powerful argument. Fifth, California's ban on magazines over 10 rounds was declared unconstitutional by a federal judge. This is one of those cases that exploded online because people immediately acted like the issue was settled for good. It was not. The ruling was dramatic, yes. The judge said the ban swept too broadly and blocked law-abiding people from using common magazines for lawful reasons like self-defense. But the state moved fast to keep the law in place while it appealed. So the legal win was real, but the day-to-day rule on the ground did not necessarily change the way people expected. That is why you have to separate courtroom victories from practical enforcement. A law can lose on paper one day and still be enforced the next because of a stay, which is a pause. Sixth, California's assault weapons ban was also declared unconstitutional by a federal judge. That ruling centered on common semi-automatic rifles, including rifles like the AR-15. The judge said the state could not point to a true historical match for banning that class of firearms. That is massive because assault weapon bans have been sold for years as untouchable centerpieces of gun control. But again, slow down before you assume the shelves instantly changed. The order was put on hold so the state could appeal. This is the pattern you need to watch. Big ruling, huge headline, immediate celebration, then a pause while higher courts step in. If you skip that last part, you can get yourself in trouble fast. Now, quick legal note, this is educational information, not legal advice. Always consult an attorney for your specific situation. Here's a hypothetical example to explain this. Say you live in California, you hear a viral clip that says the magazine ban is dead. You drive to buy something you think is now legal, but the ruling has been stayed during appeal, meaning paused. In your mind, the law is gone. In the state's mind, the law is still enforceable. You see the problem? That gap between headline and reality is where people make expensive mistakes. And here's the part nobody is talking about. These cases show that the real battle is no longer just over, can the government regulate guns? Of course it can regulate some things. The real battle is over how much history the government must show before it can do it. That sounds technical, but it changes everything because once judges demand historical proof, modern lawmakers cannot just say, "We think this is safer." They have to say, "We can prove this fits our legal tradition." That is a much harder task. Hey, 73% of people watching right now still are not subscribed. Don't be part of that group. Join the gun owners who stay ahead of these rulings instead of hearing about them after the damage is done. Click subscribe right now. Now let's get into the carry laws, because this is where things start affecting your daily routine, your truck, your travel plans, and even your age if you are under 21. Seventh, parts of Maryland's new carry restrictions got blocked. The state tried to ban carry in places where alcohol is sold, at public demonstrations, and on private property unless the owner gave express permission. A judge blocked those parts while the lawsuit moves forward. Read that carefully. Not every location rule lost. Some bans stayed in place. But the blocked parts matter because they attack a growing trend. States are trying to turn more and more places into sensitive places, meaning places where guns are banned. Courts are now asking whether those bans are truly rooted in history or whether lawmakers are just drawing giant no-carry bubbles around everyday life. Imagine you have a carry permit, you stop for dinner, you walk near a protest you did not even know was happening, you cut across private property with no sign posted. Under some of these newer laws, ordinary movement could turn into criminal exposure fast. That is why this Maryland case matters. It shows courts are starting to push back when states go too far. Eighth, Pennsylvania lost a law that blocked 18 to 20-year-olds from carrying guns in public during a state of emergency. That may sound narrow, but think about how often states use emergency powers: weather events, civil unrest, public disorder. If your rights change the second an emergency gets declared, that is a big issue. The appeals court said adults under 21 are still part of the people protected by the Second Amendment. That is a powerful line, and you will hear it repeated in case after case. Ninth, Minnesota's age 21 minimum for a handgun carry permit got struck down too. Again, this was not about a teenager. This was about legal adults between 18 and 20. The court said the state could not show enough historical support for keeping that entire age group out. This is where it gets interesting. For years, many people assumed age-based limits were safer and therefore obviously legal. But the new court approach is not asking only whether a law feels reasonable. It is asking whether the law fits the historical tradition. If not, even a rule that sounds common sense can fall apart in court. 10th, a federal appeals court ruled that licensed gun dealers cannot be forced to deny handgun sales to adults under 21 under that old federal rule. That is enormous. We are not talking about one town or one county. We are talking about a federal age restriction on dealer handgun sales taking a major hit. And that ruling matters for one big reason. It shows age-based gun laws are now one of the hottest legal battlegrounds in the country. But wait, there is something even more important. None of this means every person in every state can now carry anything, buy anything, or ignore local law, not even close. Some of these cases are limited, some are still moving through the courts, some apply only in certain federal circuits, which are regions of states grouped under one appeals court, and some rulings blocked parts of laws, not the whole law. If you miss that detail, you can end up acting on bad information. Here is the big takeaway. The legal map is changing faster than most people realize. What used to be a solid gun law can now become a shaky law if it lacks historical backing. What used to be dismissed as a long-shot challenge can suddenly win. And what looks like a huge victory can still be paused the same week. That is why staying current matters so much. Laws are moving fast and appeals are moving right behind them. Subscribe right now because the next video breaks down how to tell the difference between a real legal change and a headline that only sounds like one. So what does all of this mean for you? It means we are living through a major reset in gun law. Courts have struck down or blocked rules on bump stocks, purchase limits, ammo checks, magazine limits, certain carry bans, and age restrictions, but the details are everything. The smartest move is not panic and not celebration. The smartest move is precision. Stay alert, check your state law before you act, and never assume a viral post is the full story. If this video helped you make sense of the chaos, subscribe now and stick with this channel, because I'll keep breaking these rulings down in plain English. And one last simple reminder, this video is for education only. Gun laws change fast, and your exact situation can be different, so talk to a qualified attorney if you need legal advice.